we are all very happy to be here to share our experiences, our stories, and hopefully through the course of the next 45 minutes, you'll have an opportunity to find some new learnings, some insights, and you can take that home with you and put those into action. So, my name is Pascal Martirosyan. I am a Senior VP here at Oracle in the Cloud Compute Organization. And I am here with an amazing panel of women who are also Oracle leaders. So, Kirsten, Sudha, Petek, and Christine. So with that, before we get started, I'm thrilled to be here as a moderator. We are hoping that we'll have enough time to take any kind of questions from the audience. So please feel free to jot down something for any of the panelists, and we're hoping they'll have time to actually pass a mic around before the session is over. With that said, we're going to get the panel started, and what I'm going to ask each of you panelists to do is to state your name, the role you play here at Oracle, and a personal learning that you feel compelled to share. Perhaps it's something that you would have loved to have known about before you started this awesome career.
Well, hello. We're all absolutely excited to be here. So I'll start first. My name is Kirsten Holte. I'm the Vice President of Cloud Compliance and Assurance. And what that really means is that myself and my organization are the keepers of customer trust for all of Oracle Cloud Services. The idea is that we work with third-party auditors, regulatory bodies, et cetera, to meet the needs that our customers have and provide them a tangible assurance that they can get the security and availability that they need. But what we also do, and especially from a technical perspective, is that we work very closely with operations and engineering to put all of those requirements into harmony with the technology that we have. So we move together as one business. And then build, sustain, and maintain a posture that can provide that trust for our customers. And what I wish I knew when I was younger is that you will not know everything to take on that next role. I believe it was Becca Carter that said yesterday that you think that you will have the confidence to do the thing when you're ready to do the thing. But what you really have is the confidence that you will figure out how to do the thing when you have the opportunity to do it, and that confidence is built by gathering up and evolving the toolbox you have, your skills, your experiences, to continue to move forward and know that there's an opportunities that arise that you look at your toolbox and go, I don't have the right tool. And so how do you build that tool? How do you find that tool? How do you make it your own? And then you add to that confidence. And so it's like that 100% rule. You don't have to be 100% ready to be successful in the next thing that you do. And I definitely wish I knew that 20 or 30 years earlier.
All right. My name is Sudha Raghavan. I am the Senior Vice President of all of Oracle Cloud's developer platform. What that means is my team builds services that help all developers code, hopefully write secure code, build it, test it, deploy it, operate it through its lifecycle. I am one of those leaders that has grown in-house at Oracle. I've been here for almost 7 years. I started with a team of less than 10 people. And here I am today, by the way, as a director with no managers under me. And today, I am proud to say I lead the developer platform with over 1,000 developers in my organization. Not just developers, product managers. This has been amazing. And what I wish I knew when I started this job, I was in mid-career. I was not an early career, mid-career. But the first time I met my VP, he said a few words that shook me, really. He said, hire your replacement. That is how you will grow. And I went, what? Why would I go and make myself get out of a job when I've just gotten this one? It doesn't make sense. But today, I know that that meant that VP believed we were going to grow multiple folds. Just to give you an idea, I started in that group when we were less than 350 people. Today, we are over 10,000 strong. And that confidence that VP had. And so he said, go, do your job, hire your replacement, tell your boss, I have time, you'll get more. Do the next one, keep learning, keep growing. And it is true. That is how I am where I am today. So for me, it was what gets you here won't get you to the next one unless you actually try with very big intent. To me, that intent was, who will do my job if I don't do it? If I want to do my boss's job, who will do my job? Train, and you'll get there. I wish I knew that when I started this job.
Such a great story to share, Sudha. That's awesome. So I'm Petek Utku. If you were here last year, probably you will remember me. So my role is Vice President, Technical Operations at Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. In this role, I focus on maximizing operational excellence and ensuring resiliency and availability for our services for our internal and external customers. So my personal learning is you cannot control everything, but you can influence the outcome. This is a tough one, especially if you're like me. I don't know how many of you are, but tell me what your problem is, and I'll fix it. And then the control becomes an issue. I learned you cannot control how individuals are going to show up. You cannot control how they're going to perform, or you cannot control how invested they are or how motivated they are. But you can influence the outcome. So what I mean by that is, let me give you an example. This happened so many months ago, different company. I was engaged in a very successful, very promising, innovative, cutting-edge technology that would end up with impactful business outcome. We were super excited. Already rolled out the first phase of the project. Everything is going well. We're already realizing the benefits of that. And then mergers and acquisitions happened. The company that acquired us had a completely different vision, different culture, and biased about what we were going to implement. That was a harsh and then the pretentious battle over whether we should do this, continue, or sunset. We were crushed. A few people tried to resolve it, failed. Later on, explaining the benefits, showing the trade-offs, negotiating the financial benefits, and how we can actually realize better outcomes and so forth, neutrally to both parties, that allowed both companies to buy into the solution. That was a good aha moment for me, because we can still show up and then try to influence the outcome. We may not have the full influence to change every single outcome, and it's okay with that. And you have to be okay with that. But what you have to trust is your own, basically develop your own trust, that abilities that you can figure this out. You can show up and then figure it out. So with that, I have the pleasure sitting my mentor, my manager, Christine, in the same panel. Christine, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Petek. My name is Christine Saros, and I'm the SVP of an organization at Oracle called OCI Enterprise Engineering. And so what I actually do here, that's sort of like an ambivalent, ambiguous title, but what I do here at the company is a couple of things. So one is I work for Jay Evans, who you had the pleasure of hearing from yesterday doing our keynote. I run IT for Jay as part of my role. In addition to that, I actually run our corporate cloud migrations program for the company. So all things Oracle that used to be in on-premises data centers or used to be in other cloud environments have all moved over to our OCI platform, which is something I'm really proud of. And then I also have the great privilege of using the learnings from that and our best practices to actually build products for our customers to use. So, with the intention of assisting them with migrating their own environments and their own workloads over to cloud, as well as helping them operate efficiently over the long haul. So my scope is everything from product management to engineering to operations to being the shoulder to cry on when things go bad in production. So it is not my intent to list my resume for you today, but I mention this because, younger me would have taken probably a few steps back to understand what current me is doing today and hopefully been very proud of what I've achieved. Like Sudha, I'm a homegrown story here, so I'm dating myself, but I have 25 years experience between Sun Microsystems and Oracle. I started, 25 years ago as a software engineer doing software support, and I now run an organization of more than 1,400 people, which is, really, really fun. Actually, it's actually a great challenge, and with a great challenge comes great responsibility, which I take quite seriously. So, lesson for younger me is, I used to be that kid in class that would always sit in the very front seat. I would raise my hand for all the questions because I pre-read everything that was due, or probably like a week in advance. I definitely did the extra credit. You know the type. But you know what I never did is I never stated my intentions. I always thought, hey, if I just show up, I do the work, I do the hours, that great things are just going to happen. And sometimes that's not the way it works. And I realized, you don't have to state your career intentions just when you're having your appraisal. You can state your career intentions at any time. And the other important thing that I would say to younger me is, do not waste valuable time in your career settling for working for a bad boss. If you work for... Thank you. I'm glad that resonates because, I think we've all experienced it. And, if your boss is not working with you and helping you define those intentions and setting a plan for you against your aspirations and giving you development opportunities, then it's time for you to look for a new opportunity. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Christine, and all of you for sharing your stories, your insights. Much appreciated. So since this is a panel around women and women advancing into leadership roles, I don't think anyone here would debate that the most successful companies are those that have diversity. They hire better people, they perform better, they retain their employees better, and they actually have more engaged employees than any company that does not have diversity. The good news is that when you look at the studies, it shows that the female graduating students in the STEM programs is actually on an upward tick and steadily growing. The bad news is we only share 26% of that split. And of the 26%, only 24% of those females actually advance into a career in STEM. So, the question I have is, despite that growth, women are underrepresented. So, Petek, perhaps you could share your perspective of this particular trend and the risk you think that exists or that you see with it.
Thank you for sharing the statistics. So the 26%, that includes science, that includes mathematics. But when we have a look at the computer science and technology only, and it even goes down to 19%. So the generation gap is huge, and it's really important to realize it and how we can address the diversity and also fostering innovation. So I'll give you an example. I'm not sure that if any of you have been to the Grace Hopper last week in Orlando. That is a conference that is aimed for the STEM students to find the opportunities in the STEM field, jobs and so forth. This year, I'm not bashing men, but a lot of men showed up. And that was less opportunity for our women. So that actually raised a question for me that what we really need to do is actually paying more attention, providing more opportunities for women to get the STEM jobs. The underrepresentation of women in technology comes with several risks and also negative consequences, both for the technology industries and society as a whole. So we saw that a lack of diversity can make technology companies less competitive in the marketplace. The companies that value diversity, on the other hand, to have more broader perspective and a much more diverse customer base. And also technology is increasingly integrated into various technologies, industries and aspects of daily life. If you were here yesterday, Jay spoke and Charmaine also talked about that BlackBerry, how we actually switched from BlackBerry to iPhone and then the internet in our hands. And that evolution, technology is being used from a toddler to seniors. So it's intuitive. So it's really important to build something that we can close the gaps and create some solutions that address the diverse needs of society. So there are a few things we can do. First and foremost, education and early exposure. So again, I'm going to be giving an example from my past because it starts at home. I grew up in Istanbul, Turkey, and so basically I'm an immigrant as well. My dad was an electrical engineer. He worked in big projects, like first Bosphorus Bridge in Istanbul. But when it came down to the things that needed to be fixed at home, he was quite hands-off. So if I wanted to just have some electrical or electronic things to be fixed, that was me, that I had to step in. And he encouraged me, and he made sure that I can do this safely, and I can learn, and I can be the person that, fixing around the things. So that actually really prepared me to actually, maybe build in if you will, perspective of and the encouragement to get into the computer science and technology. So I owe that to my parents that given me that opportunity. So we should do the same thing. At home, we should encourage our kids to be in the STEM fields and close the gender gap and be more active, and then just in having them in an active role in all levels in STEM world.
Thank you for that and sharing that story. So they do say that it's around middle school age when girls kind of start to decide, am I going to take STEM route, some other route? Speaking for myself, I have 2 daughters, and I have heavily encouraged them to continue to pursue their studies in STEM. With that, Kirsten, maybe share what your thoughts are about the risk of not having women continue, or even our children, our daughters, and what you think all of us can do to keep girls involved in and interested in STEM programs.
Absolutely. So I completely agree with what Pedic's saying, and the opportunity at home in early education is extremely important. I also see that there's an additional risk, which is retention of women as leaders in the workforce, especially when life starts to get hard. We saw Sarah, and at her most frazzled, she chose to take a different role. But she could have chose to end her career. She could have chose to pause her career. She could have, there's a lot of things that we all, sorry, I moved my hands. There's a lot of things that we choose to do, and some women in tech decide from a very early age. And some get a passion and want to facilitate that passion and have an interest, and it needs to be nurtured a little bit more because they didn't start out so early with a very technical path. I'm one of those people. And so I have the luxury of having a boy and a girl. So I have a woman and an ally that I get to work with and help grow. And so I do believe that when we can start education of technology and STEM, I mean, it's not really a new thing, right? Technology is in the palm of our hands every day and what we can do about it. And so they're learning faster than all the rest of us in this room, that's for sure. But I think what's also important is the concept of resiliency and being able to carve a path, head down toward it, whether it's technologically or maybe not as, defined as that, and continue to thrive through these obstacles that we all face and know how to work through that and making the right choices. And whether that's a new career, whether that's a new job role, whether that's a new company, or whether it's just adapting your boundaries, you end up going through these rough patches. And what I wish upon all of our next generation and the generation after that is that if we can teach that resiliency, because one of the things we are seeing is retention numbers starting to drop in women in leadership in tech and women in technical roles in tech, especially when they either choose to have families, have other caregiving responsibilities, and it becomes very, very difficult. And so I think that one of the actions that we can start to take to mediate those risks as leaders and then as individuals as well is to acknowledge that that exists and what do we do about it? What are the options? Creating paths and opportunities around working through and building that resiliency, but then also building that confidence. And that confidence can start to come from acknowledging the impact that you can have on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis and beyond, and those within yourself and with others, and creating opportunities with others for that. Because then when you hit hard points, the knowing how to get through it, knowing where to get help, having advocates, having sponsors, having mentors are there when you need them, and you're not growing them at the time that you need them. You've grown them ahead of time because we all know nothing's perfect as we go forward. I think that the second risk is that traditionally in our definitions of tech, there's a lot of our occupational population that thinks engineer, developer, architect, right? Well, I'm pretty sure we have a lot of product managers, program managers, senior leaders in organizations and groups that make massive impacts to a company, but has to understand the tech, or otherwise you're at odds with the business goals. And so even if you don't have a traditional in-tech role or title, and you're in tech, you can make a huge impact, and it doesn't change how you identify yourself as a woman or a person in a technical space, right? Because those lines are blurring now. And so you can still be massively fascinated by technology, really motivated by it. It's just taking whatever opportunity that is to merge that with what you want to do as a career and making impact out of that. And you can say that that is technical role, that is leadership in tech, and that is female leadership in tech, because we're one of the best populations to be able to bridge those gaps. When you think about some of our best skill sets, it's finding similarities and commonalities, solving really hard problems, and picking the best things that you can do, the priorities, etc. And so when you have a diverse population in your organization, within your team, if you surround, I think the term was your own personal board of directors, with diversity, you start to create things that maybe nobody else has created before. And that honestly is the spirit of technology, right? Or roles in tech, is to think of how you can use what we have today to build something better, and to think about what we can build that is better than what we have today.
So you talked about kind of changing the traditional thinking. And that's really thinking about changing how we think, changing how we behave, changing how we approach things, that in itself will force companies to have to change. Given that, we know that change heavily relies on transformation and innovation. Innovation heavily relies on diversity. Diversity includes women. So it's come full circle again, we're back to women. So given that, how do you navigate and lead for the future? And when a workforce and an environment is constantly changing?
I get to talk again, sorry. So everything's changing, right? I'm sorry, the mic. I hate mics. Everything's changing, and changing much faster than ever before. So that means that we have a dynamic set of, well, honestly, variables. And the technology has changed human behavior. What that means is that organizations are changing too, because organizations are made up of human behaviors. And so organizational structure, organizational change, how you think about building a team, how you think about building an organization, how you work together, all has to change as well. And so traditional thinking about how an org structure works sometimes is not counter to what you're trying to achieve as an impact to a business. And I think that we have to ask ourselves as people who are change agents and managers of change. And that does not mean that you have to have manager as your title. We are all leaders in this. That doesn't mean that you are a people manager. I see those as two different things. And as a leader, as someone who wants to drive change, you are a change agent, but that also means there's a management of that change. And how do you navigate and lead for the future? And then, when the journey can be really unclear. And I think for me personally, there are 3 areas I try really hard when we're building an organization, establishing an organization, and working to make impact as an organization, is that in a time of a lot of change and not sure where the journey will take you, is that you have to have clarity of vision or intent. Christine talked about state your intention. I think as a leader or a driver of any particular business or organization, is it has to be clear what you're trying to achieve. Your intent has to be there. And it's not just the intent of what you deliver. It could also be the intent on how you choose to deliver and how we're going to work together to deliver. So that clarity of that vision and or intent, the confidence and the deep ownership that it takes to drive to that vision and intent. Notice I didn't say all the skill sets. I didn't say all the answers. I said that it's the confidence that you will get there and the deep ownership to drive it there. And then the last piece is kind of that toolbox that I referenced before. That has to evolve. We said before, referencing the book, what got you here won't get you there. And that's part of the technological evolution. That's the evolution of how an organization can actually work together. And so what I think we do and how we adapt to that speed of change, because change has always been there, it's the speed in which it is now, is that if I work on those 3 things, we're probably going to do okay. And if we teach those that are in our organizations about that and about that resiliency and confidence, we will move the needle. And I think that diversity plays a huge part in that because, as we stated earlier, the more ideas, the more opinions, the more experiences, the more differences people have in their toolbox, when you bring those together, you now have a bigger breadth. And you all start to learn together. That doesn't detract from knowing what your superpower is. That means that you bring that to the table and help everyone collectively use that toolbox for each other to go move the needle. And that's both from a technological acumen perspective, as well as soft skills, as well as leadership styles, as well as the opportunities that you give to others. I mean, oftentimes I think the last piece of like what we can do from a change agency perspective is that, especially as leaders, is that you're not intended to do it all yourself. And that is why you have teams. That is why you build leaders. And giving others the opportunity, the appropriate opportunity, especially when you see something in them that they don't quite see themselves, you're also a change agent for them as well. I hope that, yeah. So we're talking about change. And with change,
If you really want change, it's breaking the status quo. So I know, Christine, you're way over there, but you're not too far away. You're going to get 2 parts on this one. So the first is this. What is the risk of status quo and the importance of breaking it? And what is your perspective about women, why women might be afraid to do so?
Great, thanks. Thanks, Pascal, and I'll try to make this somewhat short and sweet. So I think, leaving the status quo assumes that we leave things as they are today. And I don't think anyone in this room, I'm likely assuming that no one in this room is here because you think the status quo is where we should be in this industry. So I think all of us are here because we want to hear from others who have taken actions to actually successfully impact that, as well as you want to partner with others to see, as a coalition, how we can actually do more and progress more quickly. So one of the things that sort of has concern for me right now, if we don't change the status quo, is the pace of technology. I think most folks are aware that with ChatGPT, we got to 100 million users in 2 months, whereas, with the mobile phones, it took nearly 2 decades to get 100 million users. So the pace is just exponential. If you think about something that Pedic mentioned during, STEM, graduates in the workforce, and you're thinking like that's 19% now, that's a fifth of the workforce. So if technology in things like embedded AI or embedded in all of the technology, which affects all of the industries, but yet only 20-ish% or so of the developers and engineers and product managers and, you name it, folks involved in the development and the creation and innovation of new technology are women, but 100% of us are going to be using said technology. Certainly that technology is not necessarily going to meet all the customer use cases, and we can definitely do a better job with that. So we have to take action. And so just an example from within my organization, something that we practice is a couple of things. So one is communication is very important for me within the organization. It took me a minute to understand and to learn how to set a communication strategy that was appropriate for an organization of my size, especially because I sort of like to talk to everybody, but as you can imagine, that doesn't exactly scale. So you have to depend on a couple different forms of communication to make that happen. And so I like to do, sort of what I call Chai with Christine sessions, where I actually talk with some of our women leaders, talk with, some of our, brand new, college hires just coming out of school to see how we can really, what folks are interested in, what's top of mind, making sure that for all of those key projects that we have in the organization, that I'm getting people aligned to those, as well as also developing a diversity pipeline. So it's not just about the folks that I have within the organization today, it's about how we can continue to grow that pipeline into the future. So again, as I mentioned earlier, setting intentions, it's very important for me to partner with the HR teams, with our recruiting organizations, with, my partners on the stage here today. I would say, status quo leadership in most companies doesn't look like this stage today, but it can. And it's all about us.
So we've talked about diverse companies have better performance, right? So, Christine, give us a sense for what opportunity you see for women to lead as trailblazers and innovators because of not only their unique lens, but because how do we make sure that our voices are heard at the table when we're in the minority?
Great. So I'm actually going to read some statistics here for you. So forgive me because I want to make sure I don't misquote an article that I read in March of 2023 in Forbes magazine. And it was titled, New Research, Women Are More Effective Than Men in All Leadership Measures. That's the real title. I didn't make that up. So some interesting statistics. So in 2023, as of 2023, women lead approximately 10% of all Fortune 500 companies. So barely 10%. However, organizations that have at least 30% of their women in leadership roles are 12 times more likely to be in the top 20% for financial performance. So the math is there. We're actually, those women leaders who are, in companies with women leaders greater than 10% are 12 times more likely to be in the top 20% for financial performance. So that you're probably wondering, like, why? Like, what's the science behind that? So women actually score significantly higher in the capability to connect and relate to others. They have better relationships characterized by authenticity, and also how they contribute to the greater good just beyond their own sphere of influence. So they care about not only what's happening within their team, but other teams, the customer, the greater outcomes. And then as part of that, women also lead by playing to win for all. And I thought that one was really interesting. Like, what does win for all mean? And that was defined as women lead by really focusing in on what matters most and partnering to achieve, and then really cultivating those strong connections to continue to achieve. So it's not just about winning in a one-time thing, it's about using those connections and those learnings to continue to win and continue to grow. So how do you replicate that in your own company? Well, I think first and foremost, you need to make sure that your voice is heard. So I like to say, and I know Kristen said this earlier, know your superpower. So you might be the one who's super good at connecting all the dots. You might be the one who is really good at challenging the team to think outside the box. You might be the one that's really good on helping others who really struggle with actually coming to a common agreement, actually come up with an even better solution when they compromise and come up with something that's, even better, right? So all teams, the most high-functioning teams, have people who are sort of subject matter experts in their space, and people naturally tend to do better with the things that they're good at, right? So it's sort of a natural thing within the teams, but often we don't speak up and we might just be assigned to something, and that something that we're assigned to might not be something that fits in that superpower space. And I know it's scary, and trust me, I literally was telling our panel this morning that as I was writing and preparing for this morning, I was thinking, why does anybody want to hear what I have to say? Like, what makes my experience any more important than anyone else in this room? And the reality of it is that all of us have achieved what we've achieved, not by just sheer luck. It's by a series of cultivated events that we've set forward. And so I think if you really take the time to understand yourself, understand the things that make you tick, understand the things that you're really good at, and then really, again, as I said earlier, tie that back into making sure that you kind of set your path and your intentions to get there, then I think it will happen for you. And the other last thing I just want to quickly mention is be your authentic self. Don't try to fit yourself into something that you're not, because at the end of the day, it's just not worth it. You'll be so much more satisfied with your job if you can actually do something that you truly enjoy. That being said, we all get assigned to things that are, tough that maybe we didn't want to do, and that's okay. We learn from those experiences, but at the end of the day, if you're spending more time on things you don't enjoy than the things that you do, then that's another opportunity, right, for you to sort of reset. So thank you.
So we're going to switch gears a little bit here. So we know that women, we are our own worst critics, right? We have a tendency to think about or focus on what we don't know, what we haven't done, versus what we do know, what we have accomplished. So given that, and given the superpower of the ability to connect, Sudha, what do you believe, in your opinion, are the critical success factors in advancing our careers as women leaders?
So I'm going to add to what Christine said. When she started, she said, advocate for yourself. We women especially think if we do the job and do it great, do it well, people around us, our managers, our peers will recognize it. But they're all busy doing their jobs as well as they can to advance. So part of our job is also to toot our own horns. Say, I did this well, I'm proud of doing this well. And do it in every place that you can. Not only that, get a community to do it for you in places that you are not there. We've heard networking, we've heard mentoring, we've heard sponsoring. It starts with us. We are the root of the network. We are the root of that graph that you want to build of connectivity, people that will support you no matter what, people who will build your confidence, people who will talk about your greatness when you're not there, so you get that opportunity to grow. So network doesn't need to be a taboo word, doesn't need to be a word that only extroverts do. Introverts, I know I was one of them, you too can do it. The person on the other side could also be an introvert. It starts with you taking action, just that first. Hey, I met you here. I saw you on a panel. I was sitting at your table. Can we chat? Can we have coffee? Whatever it is, 30 minutes. If it works, great. Otherwise, you had an extra drink. It's fine. Try it. Believe me, the other person goes, oh, I was wishing somebody came and asked me this. Very recently, I was at Oracle Cloud World a couple weeks ago. One of our senior-most executive VPs, couldn't believe it, had that syndrome. I was sitting with him on a lunch table, just coincidentally, and both of us were struggling. Now, in my position today, I couldn't get myself to say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I saw you speak. Can we chat? Just lunch table conversations, hard. But the other side is harder. I heard this analogy somewhere. It's like asking somebody out for a dance. You don't know whether they will say yes or no, but you're trying. It's really hard, very uncomfortable. But do it. It starts with you. And you make that board of director. You make that network. You start.
Thank you. So, Sudha, you talked a little bit about, hey, extend yourself, invite someone out for that cup of coffee. So that's an action every one of us can take, right? But we all also work for companies. What do you find to be unique about working at Oracle as a woman leader?
Sure. So Oracle, in particular, has both top-down and bottom-up, what we call grassroots efforts. Top-down, our CEO, Safra, she leads an executive D&I panel committee. They work especially to make that broken lung not broken. People in middle management, how do they get hired? Who are those people that we need to support? They do that at exec level. And we have our very own OWL, Oracle Women's Leadership. Some of us here are very active participants and leaders in that community. This is an employee resource group that not just women, but anybody who wants to deal with women-related issues can participate in and help. And then there are grassroots efforts. Something that I personally started here at Oracle was something called as Mentoring Ring. I have a lot of people who are participating in that ring. The ring is people helping one another, not me as a leader, being a mentor for 10, 15 people. No, we all learn from one another. We all have experiences that we can learn from, and we don't have to make the same mistake that our peer partner did to learn from it. We can learn by them just talking, just walking us through their experience. In my panel here, I'm privileged to have two other mentoring ring leaders, both Petek and Kirsten are ring leaders. And Petek, how has your experience been being the ring leader for one of these cohorts?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for actually being the starter of this movement. That's one of my, actually, not one of my, that's my favorite program that we're leading. Mentoring Ring is a fantastic program that so as Sudha said, I lead one of the cohorts, and I have 10 women in my ring. And the women are in all career levels. That is a place that everyone can speak safely and can be heard without a judgment. So we help women to accelerate their career goals and developments that where they would like to see themselves. So this is really dear to my heart because when we have a look at, again, the statistics that I'm going to be talking about, because when you have a look at the entry-level positions, there are more women in there. But when you look at the senior levels, unfortunately, fewer women are in those roles. So even compared to when I started in OCI, this number in the senior roles has been increasing. It is a journey. It's not over yet, but OCI and Oracle actually at large puts a tremendous of efforts and program aimed at the development of the career goals for women and from early stage to senior executives roles. So one thing that I would like to add is that I'm very proud to say, probably you saw it, or I'm not sure, if you haven't paid attention now, maybe you will after I just share with you this, that there's a building right across this building. That's the Design Tech High School. So Oracle Education Foundation invested in this 2014. That same year, everything rapidly developed, and Oracle decided to build a home for the Design Tech High School right in this campus. In that high school, everyday students play an important role shaping up this world, and the Oracle employees generously volunteer their time to provide students with the real-world learning experience. That helps them to start in the STEM industries very early on the high school side.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up in the interest of time. I'm gonna ask each of you one thing, one word, no more than one sentence. Okay? All right. If you could give one piece of advice to the audience now, what would it be?
Be bold. Take that next step.
Take an action. You see something, do something. Hear something, do something.
Building trust requires vulnerability.
Lead by example. We're all leaders in this room.
Thank you. A round of applause for these ladies. So we ran out of time, however, I'm sure any of these ladies, if you had questions, please take them with you and pose them, find them at lunch, reach out, the introverts, not introverts, find them, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.